Captain Mara Hayes stepped off the silver shuttle and felt the warm light of Solarian wash over her. She stood on a marble platform high above the floating city. Below her, bridges of crystal and towers of white stone curved through the pink clouds. She carried a small music box in her hand. It was carved from pale wood and inlaid with silver runes. Its soft tune was a gift of peace from Earth. Guardians in gleaming armor formed lines on each side of the platform. Their helmets glowed faintly with blue light. Mara raised her chin and offered them a calm smile. She hoped to show she came as a friend. Around her, court attendants in flowing robes whispered in soft voices. Many had never seen a human before. At the far end of the platform, a grand arch of ivory rose into the sky. Under this arch stood Princess Lizara. Her skin was a pale violet, and her long hair fell like liquid night down her back. She wore a gown of silver threads that caught the sunlight. She held herself with quiet grace, but Mara could see the keen intelligence in her violet eyes. The music box felt heavy in Mara's palm. She closed her fingers around it and stepped forward. Every eye in the court watched her. The hush was deep enough to hear her heart beat. She lifted the box with both hands and bowed. "I bring you this gift," Mara said, her voice calm and clear. "It is a simple music box. When you open it, you will hear a melody from Earth." Lizara's lips curved in a slight smile. She reached out to take the gift. As their fingers brushed, the silver runes on the box seemed to glow. A soft chime echoed through the air. Court attendants gasped at the sound. Mara straightened. She met Lizara's gaze. The princess's eyes held a new light. No words passed between them, but Mara felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. She thought the princess looked surprised and more. There was wonder there. Lizara lifted the lid. A small dancer spun on a silver arm. The melody began, gentle notes that rose and fell like a quiet wave. The music was not like any tune on Kale's. It felt full of longing and hope. The princess turned the box so that all could see it. Then she closed it again. Her gaze locked on Mara's. A single word passed between them without a sound. Bond. Mara took a steady breath. She had hoped to make friends with Kale's. She had not planned for anything deeper. Yet she sensed that this music box carried a promise. The promise of something new, something lasting. The court remained silent, waiting for Lizara to speak. Mara stood still, ready to learn the fate of her gift and her own future on this strange and beautiful world. Early the next morning, sunlight painted the ivory halls of Solarian in soft gold. Captain Mara Hayes followed Princess Lizara down a long corridor carved with ancient symbols. The walls glowed faintly, as if alive. Mara's heart raced. She did not know where Lizara would lead her, or what she would say. At the corridor's end stood a pair of large doors made of moonstone. Two guardians stepped aside as Lizara reached out. The doors swung open without a sound. Inside, a high-ceilinged chamber stretched before them. Blue light from floating crystals cast gentle shadows on the polished floor. In the center sat a round dais of white marble. Mara walked forward, clutching the music box to her chest. She felt small beneath the soaring arches. Lizara joined her on the dais and placed a hand on Mara's arm. The touch was warm and steady, guiding. "This is the Hall of Bonds," Lizara said in her soft voice. "Here, we honor those who choose to stand together." She turned, her violet eyes earnest. On Kale's, giving a personal gift creates a bond deeper than promise. It joins two souls until the end of their lives. Mara's breath caught. She remembered the small box and its glowing runes. She had meant only friendship. "I did not know," Mara whispered. "I meant to offer peace." Lizara nodded. "I know. But the ritual was set in motion the moment you offered your gift." She lifted the lid of the music box. The gentle melody drifted through the chamber again. "Listen to the song," Lizara invited. "Feel its notes." Mara opened the box. The tiny dancer began to turn, and the tune rose. As the music played, Mara felt a soft pulse of light flow from the box into Lizara's hand. The princess closed her eyes. Mara did the same. In that instant, Mara sensed Lizara's thoughts, her duty to protect her people, her fear of war, and her hope for friendship with Earth. Lizara opened her eyes. "I feel you," she said. "Your courage, your kindness." She offered the box back to Mara. "Now, you will feel me." Mara placed the box on the marble floor. The rooms glowed brighter, casting dancing patterns on the walls. Lizara took Mara's hand and laid it over the box. A faint warmth spread through Mara's body. She saw a flash of Lizara's life. Her childhood in the Crystal Gardens, her training as hare, her secret wish for a friend she could trust. Mara blinked, surprised. "I see your world," she said softly, "and I feel your heart." Lizara smiled, relief shining in her eyes. "Then our bond is complete," she declared. Her voice echoed in the chamber. "From this day, we share our thoughts and our strength." Mara swallowed, amazed by the connection. "I will protect you," she promised. "And I will protect you," Lizara replied. Outside the hall, distant trumpets sounded. Guests gathered, waiting for the princess's next words. But on the days, Mara and Lizara remained hand in hand, bound by gift and song. Two strangers from different worlds now joined as one. As word of the bond spread through Solarian, the grand court buzzed with whispers. Captain Mara Hayes and Princess Lizara walked side by side along the palace gardens. The air smelled of moonflowers and jasmine. Below the marble walk, ponds of clear water held silver koi that glided like living stars. Many court members bowed or nodded at Mara. Some greeted her with curious smiles. The human she had brought here felt welcome, yet not everyone shared the joy of this new bond. At the edge of the gardens, Lord Varnak watched from behind a column of white stone. He was Lizara's cousin, and a powerful advisor. His dark robes marked him as a master of court politics. He folded his arms and studied Mara's confident stride. "An alien princess and a human," Varnak muttered. "They think it will unite our worlds. Foolish." He turned to a nearby attendant, Lady Siren. "Arrange a private meeting with the captains of the guard," he ordered. "We must ensure this bond does not weaken Kel's safety." Lady Siren curtsied and hurried off. Varnak's lips curved in a thin smile. He planned to use fear to break the bond. If he could turn the court against Mara, Lizara would be forced to choose her people over a human stranger. Meanwhile, Lizara led Mara into the heart of the Crystal Gardens. Tall glass sculptures reflected light in rainbow patterns. Lizara paused by a fountain shaped like a spinning star. Water arsed through the air in perfect curves. "Do you like it?" Lizara asked, her violet eyes soft. Mara knelt by the fountain, tipping her hand into the cool water. "It is beautiful," she said. "It reminds me of Earth's aurora lights." Lizara smiled. "I thought you would like it." She stood close enough that Mara could feel the warmth of her presence. "You have courage, Mara. You accept my world without fear." Mara looked up. "I want peace," she said simply. "I believe humans and Kales can be stronger together." They walked deeper into the gardens, where lanterns floated like fireflies. Birds with silver feathers sang melodies of welcome. Court musicians followed, playing soft harmonies on crystal harps. Unseen by the princess and her human bondmate, Lord Varnak met with the guard captains in a secluded alcove. He spread a map on a marble table. On the map, red lines marked the trade routes between Earth and Kales. "These routes," Varnak said, tapping the lines, "will bring danger if we allow human influence. Reports speak of conflicts on Earth. We cannot risk our people's safety." Captain Doran frowned. "Your Highness, Captain Hayes has shown no sign of hostility. She obeys our laws." Varnak's eyes grew cold. "She obeys now. But every gift she gives binds our princess closer to human interests. We must prepare for betrayal." Captain Doran exchanged a worried glance with Captain Mira. They knew Lizara valued her people above all. Yet they also respected the princess's choice. Back in the gardens, Lysara and Mira reached a marble bench. They sat together, watching koi fish dance in the moonlight. Lysara rested her head on Mira's shoulder. "I feel safe with you," Lysara whispered. Mira gently brushed Lysara's hair. "I will always protect you," she replied. High above, hidden in the palace shadows, Lord Varnak plotted his next move. The bond glowed bright between Mara and Lysara, but in the court's dark corners, fear and ambition stirred, threatening to break their fragile trust. News of the bond spread quickly through Solarian's marble halls. Captain Mara Hayes walked beside Princess Lysara under tall arches carved with swirling symbols. The princess led Mara to the Court of Light, a vast chamber filled with glowing crystals. Courtiers in flowing robes paused their conversations to stare at the human and the violet-skinned princess. Many bowed politely as the pair passed, but one figure stood apart. Lord Varnak, Lysara's cousin and chief advisor, watched them from the shadowed edge of the room. His dark robes trailed over the polished floor. He pressed his lips together, eyes cold. "You would trust a human so quickly," Varnak whispered to Lady Siren, his attendant. "This bond threatens our traditions. It will weaken the throne." Lady Siren, anxious, nodded. She slipped away to gather allies among the court. Varnak's plan was clear. He would sow doubt and fear. If the court turned against Mara, the bond might shatter, and Lysara would be alone once more. Meanwhile, Lysara guided Mara to a row of tall windows overlooking the city. Floating platforms drifted between towers, and ships glided among pink clouds. The princess tapped a rune on Mara's bracelet, a simple band that marked their bond. "See our city," Lysara said softly. "Solarian's peace is fragile. Many here worry about Earth's wars." Mara pressed her hand over her heart. "I understand," she replied. "On Earth, we fear the unknown too. That is why I came, to learn and to share." Lysara smiled, then closed her eyes. Mara felt a gentle pull in her mind, their bond sharing quiet thoughts. She sensed Lysara's hope for a true friend and her worry for her people's safety. At that moment, Lord Varnak moved forward. He bowed low before the princess, then turned to Mara with a polite nod, but his eyes flashed warning. "Your Highness," Varnak began, voice smooth, "may I speak with you in private?" He gestured toward a side doorway. Lysara hesitated. The bond made her value Mara's company. Yet, as princess, she could not refuse her advisor. "Very well," Lysara said. She turned to Mara. "Wait for me here." Mara bit her lip but nodded. She watched the princess follow Varnak into a small council room. Heavy doors closed behind them, leaving Mara alone in the Court of Light. She looked around. Crystals glowed softly, reflecting rainbow hues on the walls. Courtiers whispered among themselves. Some faces wore curiosity, but others held suspicion. Mara realized she stood at the heart of palace politics, her presence stirring both hope and fear. Inside the council room, Varnak closed the doors and faced Lysara. "Your bond with the human leaves you vulnerable," he said quietly. "The court will not accept it. They will see it as betrayal." Lysara's eyes narrowed. "I chose this bond," she replied firmly. Captain Hayes came with peace in her heart. Varnak bowed his head. "Then be prepared," he warned. "Not everyone shares your belief. Some will strike against you both." Outside, Mara felt a sudden chill, as if a gust of wind had passed through the windows. She placed a hand on her bracelet. The bond hummed softly, and she knew Lysara needed her. Despite the court's growing darkness, the human and the princess remained linked, ready to face whatever shadows loomed ahead. That night, Solarian's sky glowed with twin moons. Princess Lysara retired to her private chambers high in the palace spire. Captain Mara Hayes returned to the guest suite across the hall. Both lay on soft silken beds, restless after a long day. As they slept, the bond between them came alive. In Lysara's dream, she stood alone on a cliff overlooking the stormy sea. Dark clouds roiled, and lightning cracked like angry stars. Waves crashed against jagged rocks. Lysara felt fear, for she carried her people's hopes on her shoulders. She saw visions of Earth's endless wars, of Earth ships firing on alien worlds. She woke with a gasp. At the same moment, Mara stirred in her sleep. She found herself in the same dream. She stood beside Lysara on the cliff. The wind tore at her uniform. Below them, the waves churned like white beasts. Mara felt Lysara's fear as if it were her own. She reached out to hold the princess's hand. "Trust me," Mara whispered in the dream. Lysara nodded. Together, they faced the storm. Mara's hand glowed faintly with human courage, and Lysara's heart filled with calm. The dark clouds receded, and the sea grew still. A calm light spread over the horizon. Mara woke first, breathing hard. She sat up and touched her bracelet. The tiny rune glowed softly. She closed her eyes and felt Lysara's presence. The princess stirred too, opening her violet eyes. In Lysara's chamber, she sat up, her heart pounding. She felt Mara's calm strength in her mind. She smiled, though her cheeks were wet with dream tears. "Thank you," Lysara whispered into the dark. Across the hall, Mara rose from the bed. She moved to Lysara's door and placed a hand on it. Their bond guided her steps. She tapped lightly, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Lysara stood in the doorway, wrapped in a silken robe. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Lysara held out her hand. Mara took it. The runes on their bracelets matched, glowing with soft blue light. The bond hummed between them. "I saw your dream," Lysara said quietly. "You stood with me." Mara nodded. "And I felt yours," she replied. "Your fears became mine." Lysara led Mara into a small sitting room. Moonlight poured through tall arched windows. The twin moons cast silver paths across the floor. Lysara sank into a cushioned chair. Mara sat beside her. Mara reached into a pouch at her belt. She took out 2 simple clay cups of herbal tea, earth blend with mint and honey. She handed one to Lysara. "This will calm your mind," Mara said in soft tones. Lysara accepted the cup. She inhaled the steam. "On Kales, we do not share dreams so freely," Lysara said, her voice soft. "But I feel closer to you now than to anyone." Mara smiled. "The bond helps us understand each other," she said. "Together, we are stronger." They drank in silence, sharing the warmth. Outside, the palace stood quiet under the moonlight. Inside, a human and an alien princess sat side by side, their dreams woven as one. They knew the bond would bring challenges, but for now, they had each other, and that was enough. Morning light filtered through stained glass windows as Princess Lysara and Captain Mara Hayes entered the Hall of Mirrors. The chamber was vast, with walls lined by tall silver panels. Each mirror reflected countless versions of whoever stood before it. At the center, a circular platform of polished marble waited. Lysara paused. "This trial tests heart and mind," she said softly. "Bonded pairs must walk through the hall and face the illusions. Only those who trust each other can succeed." Mara glanced at the mirrors. In each reflection, she saw herself and Lysara in strange scenes. In one, Lysara stood alone, wide-eyed and afraid. In another, Mara stumbled, falling into a dark pit. The reflections changed with every step. A gentle chime sounded, and floating crystal lights glowed above. Lysara reached for Mara's hand. Mara squeezed back. Together, they stepped onto the marble platform. Immediately, the mirrors shifted. In the nearest reflection, Lysara lay trapped under fallen stones. Her violet hands pressed against the weight. Mara felt a pull in her chest, as if Lysara's pain were real. She knelt and touched the mirror's surface. To Mara's surprise, her hand passed through the glass. She grabbed Lysara's reflection and pulled. The glass rippled like water, and Lysara rose in the real world, safe. Lysara looked at Mara with gratitude. "You saved me," she whispered. Mara nodded. I will always try." They moved on. The next mirror showed Mara alone, lost in a desert of red sand beneath a blazing sun. She raised her hand, calling silently for Lizara's help. Lizara closed her eyes, feeling Mara's plea. In the real hall, Lizara touched Mara's arm. Warm light spread through Mara's body. Suddenly, the desert scene vanished, and Mara stood beside Lizara again. "That was your strength," Mara said, offering Lizara a brave smile. They continued. Reflections changed again, showing whispered words between them turning to harsh accusations. In one mirror, soldiers scorned them both. Fear and doubt pressed on Mara's mind. She glanced at Lizara. The princess met her gaze and gently placed her hand on Mara's cheek. In that moment, all doubt melted away. Mara shook her head and stepped forward. The mirror cracked and then dissolved. A path of clear glass appeared, leading them to the hall's exit. At the final stretch, a single towering mirror stood before them. This mirror showed no reflections, only darkness. Lizara and Mara exchanged a glance. Hand in hand, they stepped forward. Inside the black mirror, Mara thought she saw the worst. Lizara turned away, abandoning her. Her heart sank. But Lizara's grip on Mara's hand tightened. The princess spoke in the mind. "I trust you." Mara replied, "And I trust you." The darkness lifted. Light streamed from the mirror, and they emerged on the other side, beneath a glowing crystal arch. The hall of mirrors fell silent. Lizara and Mara stood together, hearts racing but united. The trial master, an elder of Kales, stepped forward and bowed to them. "You have passed," the elder declared. "Your trust is true." Mara and Lizara released each other's hands, but looked into each other's eyes, knowing their bond had grown stronger. Outside the hall, the court awaited, but in that moment they simply stood side by side, ready for whatever challenge came next, together. The morning sun cast pale light through the tall windows of Solarian's grand library. Captain Mara Hayes walked beside Princess Lizara across marble floors lined with glowing runes. Rows of ancient tomes and crystal data orbs rose on shelves that stretched toward the vaulted ceiling. The air smelled of old paper and soft incense. "We must learn our shared history," Lizara said. The archive told answers about Earth's past and Kels's prophecies. Mara nodded. "If we find proof of our common enemy, we can unite both worlds." A librarian in silver robes met them at the entrance. Her hair was the color of starlight, and her eyes shone with curiosity. She bowed. "Your Highness, Captain Hayes, welcome to the Archives of Truth. Please follow me." They entered a circular chamber lit by floating lights. In the center, a crystal pool reflected words in many languages. The librarian waved her hand, and words formed on the water's surface. Prophecy of the two worlds. Lizara leaned closer, her voice a whisper. "That is what we seek." The librarian traced the title with a slender finger. The pool rippled, sending glowing letters into the air. They floated upward, opening a hidden door in the wall. Beyond lay a smaller room filled with golden scrolls and silver data spheres. Mara stepped inside, heart pounding. She reached for a scroll labeled Year 1024, First Contact. She unfurled it gently. The ancient script told of Earth's arrival at Kales's edge. At first, Kales watched peacefully, but Earth's own wars nearly spilled into this world. The scroll warned of a rising power in Earth's military that sought conquest. Lizara looked grave. "They feared war would follow us here." Mara flipped to a second page. She found a prophecy. "When a human and hare join in bond, the shadows will flee." Next to the prophecy was a crude sketch of two linked hands. One human, one alien. Lizara's eyes widened. "This prophecy speaks of us." Mara closed the scroll. Then our bond could guide both people away from war. They moved to a silver sphere labeled Earth Archives. Inside, a hologram sprang to life, showing battles on distant stars. Mara's chest tightened at the memory of Earth's conflicts. She reached out, touching the hologram. Lizara watched. "We must show this to the council." Suddenly, alarms echoed. The librarian gasped. "Intruders! Lord Varnek's guards are coming. They believe secrets here should remain hidden." Mara and Lizara exchanged a quick glance. The prophecy could change the future, but Varnek's spies would try to seize it first. Mara spoke firmly. "We cannot let them take this knowledge." Lizara nodded. She closed her eyes and used their bond to send a warning to the palace guard captain. Light pulsed on her bracelet. Within moments, royal guards in silver armor filled the corridor outside. They bore Lizara's royal crest and moved swiftly to the archives door. Varnek's guards clashed with them, weapons drawn. The librarian backed away, eyes wide. Mara placed herself between the librarians and the guards. "Protect these scrolls," she commanded. Her voice rang strong. With Lizara's support, her bond shimmering as a gentle glow, the royal guards pushed Varnek's men back. The intruders retreated down the hall under orders to stand down. Breathing hard, Lizara and Mara returned to the prophecy scroll. Lizara brushed her hand over the ancient script. "Now the truth is safe," she said softly. Mara placed a hand on Lizara's shoulder. "We know our path. Together, we will bring peace." Outside, the city of Solarian continued its day. But within the Grand Library, two bonded hearts carried the knowledge that could unite worlds and change their fate forever. The day of Solarian's Festival of Lights arrived at last. Lanterns in every color hung from arches, and floating orbs drifted above the city, casting gentle rainbows across the marble streets. Princess Lizara and Captain Mara Hayes rode together in an open carriage, greeting cheering citizens. Music filled the air, and sweet pastries were offered by smiling vendors. Mara waved to the crowd. "This is beautiful," she said, over the music. Lizara nodded, her violet eyes bright. "Our people celebrate hope. Tonight, we share new beginnings." The carriage stopped before the Grand Plaza. A raised stage stood in the center, draped in shining fabrics. Lizara and Mara stepped out, hands linked. The crowd hushed, waiting for the princess to speak. But before Lizara could raise her hand, a courtier pushed through the guards. He knelt at Lizara's feet, head bowed low. "Your Highness," he gasped, "the festival hall is not safe. An assassin waits among the dancers. They mean to kill Captain Hayes." Gasps rippled through the plaza. Lizara's eyes widened. She turned to Mara, pale beneath her regal gown. Mara's heart pounded, but she forced calm. "Who would do this?" she asked. The courtier pointed toward the dancers in flowing robes. One figure moved near the lanterns, a dark shadow in bright color. Lady Siren, Varnek's attendant, stepped forward. "Your Highness," Siren said, voice trembling. "Some in the court fear the bond is too dangerous. I overheard plans for an attack tonight." Lizara's gaze snapped to Siren. "You knew and held back." Siren's eyes filled with tears. "I was afraid for all of us." She bowed her head. "I could not tell the guards. I thought I could stop it myself." Lizara took a slow breath. "Show me." Siren led them toward the dancers. The music played softly from crystal speakers. Dancers in bright robes spun and leaped. Mara felt her hand tighten on Lizara's. Lizara raised her free hand and spoke words in her royal tongue. The music hushed. The dancers froze. "Everyone," Lizara's voice rang clear, "my bondmate stands here. Anyone who harms her will answer to me." A hush fell. From the crowd, a figure broke away and lunged toward Mara. The attacker wore a glittering mask and held a slender blade. In a flash, Lizara moved. She placed herself between Mara and the blade. Light glowed from her bracelet as she reached out. The attacker froze mid-strike, as if caught in time. Mara sprang forward, disarming the would-be assassin with a swift move learned on Earth. The sword clattered to the stone floor. Guards rushed in and seized the masked figure. Lizara knelt beside Mara. "Are you hurt?" she asked, voice trembling. Mara shook her head, brushing a lock of dark hair from her face. "No, I am fine." Lizara turned to the crowd. "Know this," she declared, voice strong. "Anyone who attacks my bondmate attacks me and all of Kale's." Her words echoed in the square. The masked attacker was unmasked by the guards. It was an advisor known for loyalty to Lord Varnak. The crowd murmured in shock. Lizara raised her hand. "The traitor will face justice." She looked at Mara. "I am sorry this happened." Mara gently lifted Lizara's hand. "We faced it together," she said. Citizens cheered, not for the dancer or the music, but for the princess and her human bondmate. The Festival of Lights had become a night of unity, and the betrayal only made their bond shine brighter. Dawn broke over Solarian with soft pink light. Princess Lizara stood on a balcony overlooking the Grand Plaza. Captain Mara Hayes joined her, offering a steaming cup of mint tea. Below, citizens gathered around the fountain, whispering about last night's events. Lizara lifted the tea and smiled at Mara. "Thank you," she said. "Your courage inspired many." Mara nodded. "Your words saved more than me. They saved hope." Together, they descended marble steps to the plaza. A crowd formed, eager to hear from their princess. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze. Silver birds perched on nearby ledges, watching in quiet curiosity. Lizara stepped onto a low platform at the fountain's edge. She turned to Mara. "Will you stand with me?" she asked softly. Mara placed a supportive hand on Lizara's shoulder. "Always," she replied. Lizara faced the crowd, her voice clear and calm. "People of Kales," she began, "our world has long stood apart from Earth. We have watched their conflicts with fear, but last night proved our true strength lies not in isolation, but in unity." She paused, letting her words sink in. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mara joined Lizara on the platform. "On Earth," Mara said, "we learned that trust can overcome fear. Princess Lizara showed me that your world values peace and honor as much as mine does." Lizara raised her hand, and a crystal light on her bracelet glowed softly. Through their bond, Mara felt Lizara's determination and her love for her people. "Today," Lizara continued, "we choose partnership. We will share knowledge, culture, and hope. We will work together to protect both our worlds." A woman in the front row, dressed in emerald robes, stepped forward. "Your Highness," she said, "we have feared humans for generations. Will they respect our laws?" Mara spoke with honesty. "I promise to learn your ways and honor your customs. I came seeking friendship, and I pledged my word." The crowd listened, faces turning thoughtful. A young scholar raised his voice next. "Will Earth's armies threaten us?" Lizara's violet eyes shone. "Under this bond," she said, "I stand as protector of both peoples. As long as I live, no harm will come to Kales from Earth." The plaza grew quiet. Then, one by one, citizens began to clap. First a few, then many, until the plaza rang with applause and cheers. The silver birds took flight, wheeling above in celebration. Mara and Lizara looked at each other, hearts full. The bond around their wrists pulsed with gentle light, a promise seen by all. As the crowd dispersed to prepare for the day's markets and festivals, Lizara turned to Mara. "You gave me more than peace," she said. "You gave me courage to lead." Mara bowed respectfully. "Your trust guided me." They walked through the plaza together, greeting smiling families and curious children. Every face they passed held hope. The bond had not only woven two hearts, but had begun to weave two worlds into one. Evening fell over Solarian in shades of rose and lavender. Lanterns ignited along the palace walls, their glow reflecting on smooth marble. Princess Lizara and Captain Mara Hayes stood before the palace gates, where Lord Varnak waited with a small force of loyal guards. His dark robes contrasted with the soft light. Varnak bowed low. "Your Highness," he said, voice steady, "I have come to demand your abdication. This bond with a human weakens the throne. Lizara stepped forward onto the marble ground. Her bracelet glowed gently, linked to Mara's. "I will not step down," she said firmly. "My bondmate stands with me. We serve Kales together." Varnek's eyes flashed. He raised his hand, and his guards drew slender blades. Mara moved beside Lizara, placing herself between the princess and the advancing guards. "Please lower your weapons," Mara said, voice calm but strong. "This need not end in violence." Varnek smiled coldly. "You forget your place, human." He gestured sharply. "Guards, seize them." The guards lunged forward. Lizara grabbed one by the arm, twisting him aside. Mara disarmed another, with a swift motion trained on earth. Blades clattered across the marble floor. Lizara drew a small, curved dagger from her sash, more a symbol of her rank than a weapon. She held it before her. "Kale stands for peace," she declared. "If you wish war, you will face both of us." Varnek advanced, sword in hand. He swung at Lizara, aiming to cut her sash. Mara leaped forward, intercepting the blow. Her hand glowed with human resolve as she blocked the sword with her forearm. The steel blade rang against the light shimmer. Mara pushed Varnek back with a firm shove. Lizara moved beside Mara, her dagger at Varnek's throat. She spoke in her royal tongue, and the words echoed clear in Mara's mind. "Yield." Varnek froze, chest heaving. He lowered his sword slowly. You threaten the royal family," he stammered. Lizara's violet eyes shone. "I protect not just my family but my people," she said. "And I choose to protect them with my bondmate by my side." Mara placed a hand on Lizara's arm. The runes on their bracelets flashed bright. Through their bond, Varnek felt a wave of calm, and the power of two hearts united. He looked at Lizara, then at Mara. The anger drained from his face, replaced by reluctant respect. "I yield," Varnek said quietly. He signaled his guards to lower their weapons. They obeyed without another word. Lizara and Mara stepped back together. Lizara sheathed her dagger. "Let it be known," she called out, raising her hand, "that the bond is our strength, and no one may break it." At her words, citizens who had gathered at the palace entrance cheered. Guards loyal to Varnek moved to stand beside royal forces. The palace gates opened wide. Lizara turned to Mara, relief and pride shining in her eyes. "Together," she said softly. Mara smiled, bowing slightly. "Together," she agreed. Beneath the glowing lanterns, the princess and her human bondmate walked through the gates as equals. The final challenge had passed, and a new era dawned, one where human and Kale stood side by side, bound by gift and promise.